I have therefore, pursuant to Section 101 of the Minerals and Mining Act 206, Act 703, taking a decision to establish this Ministerial Committee of Inquiry to review the entire health and safety regime of the mining industry in our country. The task which the committee is to undertake is one that requires expertise. Accordingly, the ministry has decided that the committee will be chaired by the Vice Chancellor of the foremost university specialized in mining and mining technology, the George Grant University of Mines and Technology, Professor Richard Amankwa. The terms of reference of the committee are as follows. 1. To undertake a general review of the health and safety regime in the mining industry. 2. To review the existing laws, regulations, and guidelines on health and safety standards in the mining industry. 3. To inquire into any matter relating to health and safety in the mining industry. And 4. To make recommendations to government for legislative, policy, and other reforms it may deem fit. The committee has 1 month from today to present its report.
Abu Jinapor is the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, and he has been leading the process to rebuilding life and homes in Appiatse. Thank you for joining us, sir. Okay, so let's go back to this issue now. Kofi, how far, what's your assessment so far of the processes in Appiatse? $6 million, the president has directed that the $5 million, which is actually not the fine, it's only $1 million, which is a fine that was imposed on Maxam. The $5 million should be donated, so to speak, to the fund for rebuilding the town.
Right. I think all of that is really good. I just have one worry. The issues going on at Appiatse will lead to another problem that we would have to come and sit and investigate if we don't make sure that everything that is done in a legally sound way. 1, the fine, legally sound. The $5 million extra, let's situate it in a proper legal structure. I've heard of some payment terms. It must not be between my brother Abu and the people. Of course, that is not the situation. But I'm saying whatever they do, it must be legally sound. And the thinking must be that even if they are not in government, whoever comes up after them should be able to collect that money. And then again, the president's order that that money should be used in Appiatse must be set in some sort of executive instrument or law or order. And behind all this must be total transparency. So far, that is my biggest problem with what's going on at Appiatse. Of course, there's a lot of moving parts, but I don't see why by now we don't have an Appiatse website. I don't see why we cannot put every single donation on the website. I don't see why we cannot put every single expenditure on the website. And by the way, the committee that is going to handle the Appiatse issues, rebuilding, whatever it is, I need to see that there are indigents from Appiatse. There is the chief or whoever from Appiatse. If you left it to me alone, and I'm not being populist, I will insist that the chairman be resident in Appiatse. One of the things the government can do, if I were in any position, I'll build a house in Appiatse and put the chairman and whoever is there. If you don't have the time, if you don't have the wherewithal, if you don't have, the presence of mind or the passion for Appiatse to be consistently on that issue, you should not be chairing this at all. And I do believe there are people we can get or somebody we can get who will take this on, because a whole township is gone. And I have no doubt that the majority of the people in Appiatse today have not seen or felt any government, support. So we need to make sure that this thing does not lead to people in Accra becoming rich. It does not lead to another scandal we have to investigate later, but it actually leads to the rebuilding of Appiatse and leads to situations where companies like Maxam and their like do not do things like this. Maybe we'll have time to talk about the other thing, but what happened in Appiatse meaning that we could transport explosives of this magnitude in such a loose manner. If anybody had hijacked that vehicle and driven it to Jubilee House, we would have had a different situation on our hands. So there's a bigger picture we need to be looking at over here. And in short, I'm saying total transparency and making sure legally sound moves are being made is what we need at this point. We should not lead to a situation where later we come to investigate some untoward dealings.
Right, Dr. Bright Opong Afum, what do you make of the remedial measures? Now, the minister in his statement was very clear that you cannot transport explosives on a public road unless there's been 48 hours notice to the regional mine inspector. A number of things have to go on. There have to be certification that has to be carried out. Also the question of escort clearly spelled out in the minister's release that he signed as what has, transpired on the basis of the investigations that have gone on. There will be 2 escorts, one, in front and one behind, making sure that, things are done in the right manner. What do you make of those other measures?
Yes, thank you very much, Samson. Greetings to your cherished viewers, and again, my condolences to the Appiatse community. So when you look at the measures that the minister put in place, you can really see that there was an urgency to remediate and also to ensure that the mining company business is going on, because we all know the contribution that the mines or the mining companies are giving to the country. So it's very important that we try, though we must take action because due to legal issues or accidents or whatever. But when we are remediating, we should also ensure that business also goes on. Yes, so the measures actually are resounding. Some could be immediately carried out. Some too, practically is not feasible. For instance, if the vehicle do not have any GPS tracking system, it needs to go through procurement system for installation and all those things to be able to ensure that we have those in place. Now the escorts, sometimes because we are not privy to the entire report, we find it difficult to also see the mind or where the minister is coming from. But it's true, the LI 2177 defines having escorts, but the detail of the escorts is silent. But most mines or most companies try to manage the escorts as they like, or feasible or as practical as much as possible. So looking at the measures, I think some are good, some too requires, some cannot be implemented because of procurement actions, and also
you mean some cannot be implemented immediately? That's what you mean, not that they cannot be implemented.
Yes, some cannot be implemented immediately. Some will take time.
So yes, so Dr. Afum, hold on briefly for me. Let me bring on the minister. I understand that he's been with us for a while and he's in a meeting and has to return. So let's get to him briefly, then he goes back. Thank you, Mr. Abujinapo, for joining us. Hello, sir.
Thank you very much, my good friend Samson.
Great.
And good morning to your cherished listeners.
Right. So is it yesterday that you issued a statement confirming that the president has approved, or as it were, ordered that the 5 million, which is not the fine, it's the 1 million which is the fine. The 1 million goes to the regulator as IGF, and then the 5 million should go into the fund for the rebuilding of Appiatse. How are you going to ensure that it comes in as quickly as possible, and to ensure that they have their life backs as quickly as is reasonable?
As in the company Maxam?
That's right.
Well, so far as I'm concerned, the boxes which have to be ticked have been ticked. I mean, I wrote to the Minerals Commission to communicate to them the decisions I've taken, which is part of which is what you've just enumerated, which is the fine component, which my understanding is that it's been paid, the $1 million US dollars. The conditions which we put in place also have been communicated to the Minerals Commission. So at this stage, the ball is in the Minerals Commission's court.
But there's a supervision that has to go on to ensure that the rebuilding is done in a reasonable time for the people. Is that not so?
Absolutely, absolutely. You're so right about that. And that is something that is occupying my attention almost on a daily basis. As you may be aware, I have set up an Appiatse reconstruction project implementation team. And the whole idea was to bring the various organs of the government together. I mean, for instance, you cannot build a community without LUSPA. LUSPA being the Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority, which is the formerly Town and Country Planning. So they have a seat on this committee. The Survey Authority has a seat on this committee. The Ministry of Works and Housing is represented. The chamber itself, I mean, I don't know if you know this, a lot of the chamber, the mining companies, large-scale mining companies, engage in resettlement almost on a regular basis. And they have a seat on this committee. So there's a team that is working tirelessly. They've been to the community already. The idea really, something, and I should say this with a lot of emphasis, is that we need to rebuild this community properly. In other words, it should be a properly planned community, sustainable community, green community, with all the things that any modern community anywhere in the world will have. That is the instructions of the president, and that is what we are working towards. Thankfully, to appear that we are putting the money together here and there, it looks like funding may not be such a major problem. Where we need to keep our eye on is actually to make sure that this is done properly. I mean, first of all, value for money, the adherence, the strictest standards of transparency and accountability, and also that it is done and done properly. So if Ghanaians go to see this community, it becomes a model village or township for all of the country. So that's what we are working towards.
Is it out of this $5 million US dollars that the 13 persons that died will also receive some compensation, as in their dependents or relatives?
Well, I will be reluctant in venturing into that because, as you know, I've been very, very careful not to have any of my decisions or actions constitute a bar to any civil claim, and also for it to not prejudice any such entitlement. You know better. So I'm careful about that. What we need to proceed methodically. Now we have an Appiatse support fund. Let us see how much they will be able to raise. I mean, the understanding I get is that they are giving themselves up to end of March, and by which time we have a clear sense of how much we've been able to put together. Definitely, we need to look at the reconstruction of the community very closely as a priority. And then, of course, if we still have some more money, we need to look at other matters, the livelihoods of the people, as you are saying, the people who died and their dependents, and so on and so forth. But that obviously
the 100 others who got injured.
Exactly, all of them. We need to take a holistic view of it. But we have to prioritize. But those should not also be prejudicial or a bar to any claim, you know, and that's very important. Look, I've been speaking to my good friend, the Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber, Mr. Suleiman Akondi, who has been very cooperative and offered a lot of leadership. And I've said to him, and I have no difficulty saying this publicly, I've said to him that, look, the mining industry, and not just the mining, the extractive industry across the world, normally carries a certain negative brand. Indigenous and citizens sometimes feel they don't get the full value of these resources. When they do the cost-benefit analysis, they don't benefit. And here you are with this tragic event. I think it gives us a golden opportunity for us, and when I say us, the ministry, the chamber, and all the stakeholders involved in the mining industry, to pull our weight and step forward. And through that, I believe, can repair the corporate image of this industry, of which I'm a minister, and I take them as my partner. So they are also putting themselves together, and hopefully very soon I'll be leading them to the president, and the country will hear what support the mining community of our country has to offer in this very difficult situation we find ourselves in.
All right. Beyond that, the committee, you say the committee has a very short time. Is it a 1 month period to be able to...
the fundraising committee.
Yes, they have 1 month from Monday, February 7, to present a report and recommendations to government for reforms.
There's been a lot of steps we've taken in this matter. So, is this question in relation to Professor Amankwa's committee?
That's right.
Okay. So, what it is that, as you know, there are different issues which come up as a result of this incident. There is the immediate issue of the incident itself, the Appiatse incident itself, which is something that we've been dealing with, and which is what occasioned the investigation, specifically on the Appiatse. And then, of course, what we just discussed, the support fund and the reconstruction. But there is another matter which, for me, is equally important, which is the health and safety regime of the mining industry as a whole. And by that, we are not discussing only explosives. We are talking about the totality of the health and safety arrangement of the mining industry. And in the statement I made, you recall that I pointed out some incidents which are taking place in Anglo Gold, where 1 person died, one in Ayamfori, which 5 people died, and several other incidents. And therefore, this offers us an opportunity to look at the health and safety regime of the mining industry holistically. And I took the view that an assignment like that ought not be done by people who don't have the technical know-how, which is why I invited the Vice Chancellor of the George Grant University of Mines and Technology, himself a mining engineer of international repute, to chair the committee for government, and then wrote to the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences for a representative who nominated somebody whose CV is extraordinary, actually. And then the Ghana Bar Association, because I felt that part of it is also going to be a review of the legal regime as well. And the Ghana Bar Association also nominated a senior associate from Nkapremu, whose CV is also sterling. And my advisor on mining, whom I have a lot of confidence in, Mr. Ben Ayi, himself a former chief executive officer of the Minerals Commission, and the players who are in the industry will attest to his integrity and his capability. He also is a member. And I said we should get a distinguished former chief inspector of mines and to be a member. So we have a former chief inspector of mines. So they have a month from 7th of February to produce a report which makes recommendations to me, the minister, for us to be able to overhaul the entire health and safety regime of mines. There have been questions about even where mines are sited and communities by the mine, a whole lot.
All right.
Those questions are is exactly the mandate of this committee.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time. We'll leave you here so that you can continue with your meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So, Bright of whom you were looking at the specific measures to avoid a recurrence. And you were talking about those that can be implemented immediately and those that may take some time to implement. But your complete view of the measures is that they are good?
Yes, Samson, thank you. So when you look at best mining practices and also experiences or what has happened in the past, similar of these incidents have happened all over the world. in Iran, in Ontario, in China, North Korea, and all those things. So we learn from what has happened to also make our system better. Now, when you look at the measures that the minister put in place, for me, 90% or 99% of it is already in the LI 2177. Just that the specifics of how to go about what is enshrined in the LI were not expounded, right? So
our problem usually has to do with implementation. Is that not so?
That is the story here. So we need to look at the implementation, the institutional lapses, what is actually driving this to ensure that we don't experience a similar incident or a higher one that will also destroy the image of the mining industry. And when you look at the system of some of the measures, as I said, cannot be implemented now. And now the measures did not only apply to Maxam company, it applies to all the explosive companies in the country. So are we saying that all of them should now install tracking system? I know some of them do have, but how long will it take for them to do that? What would the chief inspector of mines say when they are about to transport explosive and that system is not in place? Is he going to prevent them from the transportation, or is going to allow them? Now look at, we shouldn't transport ANFO or ammonium nitrates, fuel oil on our public roads. This means that the explosive services company should have a plant on the mining site. It's a good idea, but this is not going to happen overnight or in a week or in a month. There needs to be procurement arrangement.
Right.
Remember that although we try to manufacture explosives in Ghana, we actually don't manufacture explosives in Ghana. We actually transport explosives from or outside the country. We only manage or we prepare the explosives in Ghana. So from my experience, only about one company or two that has got mobile manufacturing ANFO plant. So in that case, are we saying that only that company should be working? And again, that company even has several sites, mining sites. So how is he going to move his plant? So this is not feasible. It's not practical in the industry. And surely the chief inspector of mines will have some challenge implementing that. And that's what I think we need to look.
All right. Now, Sam George, you hear the minister, he's unwilling to be categorical about what goes into compensation. There are 13 people who have died. There are 100 or more, is it, who have suffered various degrees of injuries. He does appear to have his focus on the rebuilding exercise as in the structures of the community. Of course, the statement said that these monies that are being given out is without prejudice to people who want to take legal action and the rest of them.
Yes, something. It's important that we bear in mind that where we find ourselves, it's a double-edged sword. It's an unfortunate situation. Again, my commiserations to the families of the deceased and the injured and the displaced. But then it gives us the opportunity to reset the ball. And when you look at the legislative framework we have, like the mining experts we just spoke to, Dr. Afo, Dr. Afum. The minister's directives are not new things. They're things that exist in the regulatory framework we have as a country. It's just that implementation of them have actually not been up to scratch. Okay. This is an opportunity for us to sit back and look at regulatory bodies and look at how well they're performing their regulatory functions. Okay, because you look at what has happened, and that's why I was a bit worried about the imposition of the fine. Not to say that the fine shouldn't have been imposed, but should that have come from the minister? It should have come from the Mining Commission or the Minerals Commission, which is the regulator for that space. Okay, because if you look at the LI that governs the mining and all, it is the regulator who is supposed to impose fines. And even with the fines, when you look at the penalty points and all, you calculate it comes to about $50,000. So this is more of an administrative fine coming from the policymaker in the ministry. But this should give us an opportunity for us to look at how the regulatory body plays in that space. Now, again, on the issue of the victims, I'm worried that it is more of the administrative fine that seems to be funding the recovery fund. The international best practice is that these companies must have insurance cover.
But by the law, the fine ranges from 600 Ghana cedis to 10,000 United States dollars.
That's the point I'm making. So, so that's why I said, clearly, this 6 million that we're talking about is something that came outside of the remit. And
so
I'm not against it.
If you're allowing the regulator to impose it, then yes, it meant that you can't have more than what is...
Absolutely. Yeah. But the point I'm making is the regulator's remit is not just the imposition of fines. It's actually the conduct of the organizations they regulate. If there had been proper enforcement of regulations in piloting, in escorting. Look, if you look at the regulations, it states that you must actually transport explosives in containerized vessels, which are able to contain a possible blast. So some kind of armored kind of container. It's all in the regulations. It states that there must be an escort vehicle and a pilot vehicle. If all of these were properly followed, you don't have seen what happened here. Now, the point I was making about insurance is, again, the regulation demands that companies involved in this, in the transportation, must have insurance that covers it. I haven't had any conversation where the government is drawing down on the insurance cover of the transporter, because bear in mind, yes, Maxam has been fined, but it wasn't Maxam that was doing the transportation.
That's right.
The company doing the transportation, were they insured? Did they have an insurance cover? Have we made a claim against the insurance? Is the state, which has responsibility to the citizens who are diseased, displaced, and injured, making a claim on behalf of its citizens against the insurance policy of the company? Did they even have an insurance policy? Nobody said anything to us about all of that.
Do you get the impression that because even this fine imposition brings up questions of, arbitrary sort of conducts, because you must act within the law. You cannot act above what the law says. And now, do you get the impression it is the case that the individuals, those who have been affected, may now take their own actions, which will draw on the insurance?
It will be advised, in my limited opinion, that a class action suit of some sort should be brought on behalf of the citizens of Appiatse. It may not be just one class; it could be grouped into clusters and bring collective class action suits, so that for the first time, and I don't think we've seen any major class action suit in Ghana before, but this may really be the opportunity for us to test that area of the law in Ghana and then draw down on the insurance cover. Now, if, and I keep using the word if there was an insurance cover.
But they do not need to take a legal action before they can get the insurance claim. It is when perhaps that is not enough.
Sure. So it depends on what insurance, what the company offers as some kind of compensation.
That's right.
Drawing from this insurance. They can choose to challenge whatever quantum is being given to them.
Right.
But the point I'm making is, in all of this conversation, I haven't heard any talk about insurance or any monies being paid by way of insurance. Because when you spoke to the minister, everything seems to center around the 6 million fine, okay, which is basically the president's directive has said, move 5 million into the fund. So if the president had not asked that should be moved into the fund, what happens? How are we going to be funding the reconstruction? Again, that for me is challenging because, and that's why I keep saying it's something I would want the minister to pick up. Did they have an insurance policy cover? Who is insuring them?
That's what I'm asking. Don't you think it's deliberate not to focus on that and leave that to
the citizens?
The residents themselves.
Well, I think that part of what the state must do as its responsibility to the citizens will be to be able to prod them in some of those directions. Even if the state was not going to lead the charge, help. We're talking about a community that the persons in there may not necessarily have the access to the kind of legal resources required to explore some of those options. Right. That's why you need the state. That's why the state has responsibilities beyond just the reconstruction, to even making sure that whatever civil benefits could accrue to the residents of Appiatse, the state prods them in that direction and offers them whatever legal resource they may need to be able to make the claims. Because even if it wasn't going to go to court and it was just a sit down with the company, you will need a lawyer to lead that conversation. And so that's why I'm saying that all of that must be factored into the entire rebuilding of Appiatse. It will be a beautiful thing that out of this, be like the phoenix, would rise a new community. I hear the minister talk about a green community. We hope that it will be properly planned. Right. And I just hope that in the execution of this, we don't end up having news stories or scandals of persons who were supposed to benefit, not benefiting. And I mean, it should be tidy.
Let's have Kofi Bento briefly on this. Kofi, what do you make of the $5 million, that is $5 million that is supposed to be paid between the 1st of March 2022 and the 1st of August 2023, not necessarily being a part of a compensation package to the people? It's possible, but we don't know for now if that will be.
That is a problem for me. That is part of why I started and said, everything that is done must be done in a legally sound way. Samson, let's consider this. A year down the line, Maxam or whoever has been fined refuses to pay the money. What are you going to do? It must be such that it is clear what we are asking for. It must be such that we know the nature of the money, where it is going, and who it will, benefit. All right. So I worry that some of those details are not clear, to some of us now. I am hedging my comments because I am hoping that some of that work has been done, and maybe in due course we'll get to know. But as of now, I am not sure the nature of that 5 million. That is one. I am not sure the legal vehicle by which it is being exacted and how it is going to be treated. All right. We just did a census. It's not been too many, months since we did a census. So it should be possible for the government to have information about the residents and people of Appiatse. Now, it's been a few months since this thing happened. Those who have survived having to live rough, people are dead, all right, and their families are going to have issues. I don't see why, if we have a 5 million coming, the government cannot find some money or find a way of advancing some help to the residents and people of Appiatse. Even now, I don't know what has been done, and again, that black box approach is what is going to lead to a trouble down the line, and we should avoid it. So,
is it not the case that
tell us on what legal authority are we exacting the 5 million? Where is that fund going to go, and how is it going to be dispersed? And once we know that, let's follow it.
The 5 million is an agreed sum, as we are told. It's an agreed sum to be paid, and it is without prejudice to any criminal or civil liability Maxam may be subject to. Don't you agree that the first things that the people need for now is homes and their medical care where that is needed? Because if they are going to be giving money to do anything, they first need a place to lay their heads.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that they have to have a place to sleep. So if you're not going to give them money, but you're going to give them maybe makeshift houses or whatever it is, let's see some action on the people of Appiatse. Now, you said that it is an agreed sum. Samson, what you and I know is that what that suggests is that it's a gentleman's agreement. in the emotion and fury of the things that have happened in Appiatse, I can expect that anybody will come forth and say, I will do this and I'll do that. It's like a fundraising thing. People come in the euphoria and promise all kinds of things. When it dies down, what stops the Maxam people from saying, I'm sorry, we've changed our mind and we don't think that we are supposed to pay that money. After all, the fine should not be more than 50,000. What stops them? So the 5 million, if I saw them bring in, prefabricated housing, okay, which can be done in 3 months, and I will know that that money is going somewhere. If I saw them put a medical team, nothing stops them from having a field hospital in Appiatse right now. That can be produced. Senor Jose and Co. built a hospital in record time in this place. So by now, there should have been a field hospital in Appiatse taking care of the people. Not everybody died. Some people were wounded. And some of the wounds is a spectrum, severe to mild. Who is taking care of them? Who is paying for their medication? Okay, so I haven't seen enough action, and I don't say everybody should come and report to me, but we need to see that some of these things are leading to, answers to the people of Appiatse. And then what will come later should be set in such a legal framework that they cannot derogate from it. Right now, a gentleman's agreement is not good enough. We are not seeing the immediate actions that we must be seeing. Wherever there's a disaster,
your suspicion is that being a gentleman's agreement, they can change their mind anytime, but they have their brand to protect. And you suspect that they may change their minds depending on how the people take their decisions regarding what to do. Supposing they start filing suits all over the place and they are claiming hefty amounts in those suits, they may rather want to channel this money into paying for those damages?
Absolutely. Samson, if you or some other lawyer was advising them, you would tell them, please, you can give this money and later you are going to have to pay another money in terms of the legals and whatever it is. So please hold on. If it's a gentleman's agreement, nothing binds them from honoring or dishonoring it. And please, let's be clear. These companies, and I mean every company, especially multinationals, they only care about their profits. To the extent that they are going to be able to defend their profits and they have viable business in Ghana, they will continue to be here and do the right things. We have seen big multinationals walk away because they calculated that it's not going to be viable to continue to be in Ghana. If Maxam or whoever it is, mining company or whatever, come to the conclusion that, look, given the future that we are looking at, we are going to be saddled with all these costs and whatever it is, they will roll up their operations and leave. Forget about their brand.
The 5 million together with the fine is on the basis that they have seen what they say, the demonstrable cash flow. So they clearly must have what it takes to pay that amount of money without, being affected.
Well, they may have the cash flow for it. It does not mean they are going to give it to you. And mark my words, they will be doing their calculations by now and ask themselves, what does it look like for the next 20 years in Ghana? If they are going to be saddled with lawsuits and millions of dollars in damages and whatever it is, they will leave this country.
They literally have a monopoly over this business. So it's good business for them.
It's the same point I'm making. If Ghana is good business for them, they will stay here and pay those things and then continue to do their business. But if they realize that Ghana is not going to be that good a business, they will roll up and leave. We should not think that these people or whoever they are love us so much that regardless of whatever they are facing, they are going to continue to do business here. They are seeking profit, and that's what is happening for 150 years. So let us make sure we tie them down whilst they are here. Make sure we have lien on some property that they have. Make sure that we've done things in a legally sound way, not a gentleman's agreement, so that even if they leave, which is their prerogative, we will still be able to go after them and get them to come and take care of our people who they have damaged.
All right. Let me take my quick final comment from Dr. Bright Opongafum, and then we will take a break and return to the Kotoka International Airport, where private jets can't seem to fly as planned. Yes, Dr. Afum, what will be your concluding comments?
Thank you very much, Samson. I was following the discussion from Kofi and also the Honorable. I think one thing should be made clear here. the fundamental error. But Santa, I don't want to wade into the legalities, but the fundamental error was the Maxam breaching. Was it the explosive or the explosion? Was it resulting as a fact that Maxam breached the law or the regulation? Though we are not privy to the information, but this is what technically it is. If the explosive accidentally detonated on its own, then we can say that surely Maxam was or has a hand in it. Now,
the things that were identified as breaches, Maxam is very clear that that has nothing to do with the explosion.
Yes, thank you. So we are looking at a start of a legal battle here, where, and in fact, that's how all the historical explosions happen, and what actually results after that. It doesn't end. Anything that happens in a legal fine, it doesn't end on that day. Now, I was interested in the last but one paragraph of the page, let me say page 5 of the minister's press release, right? It's actually something that the international community will be looking out for, because there is a deferment of punishment or deferment of actions, and the international community will be following up and want to ensure that whatever that is happening in Ghana, if in future they want to invest in Ghana, they have that confidence. They are not liable to have a capital base for their business and also capital base for political endeavors. Then the second thing I want to tackle on, which will draw this curtain, is the committee that we have. Is a 1 month enough for such an exhaustive kind of work? We are looking at stakeholder engagement here. Surely we are going to engage the Chamber of Mines because they don't have a rep on the committee. Even the community, we don't even have a rep on the committee. So there will be extensive engagement. Now the committee have the 1 month, will it be enough for them to do justice to the safety, health, and the technicalities of the community?
Right.
I think of the mining committee, I think this is what we should also look at.
And like we identified, let's hope and pray that whatever the outcome will be, it will be implemented, because that exactly is our biggest problem. As you spoke about tracking devices, it took my mind to the excavators. Excavators are not supposed to be on the field unless they are fitted with tracking devices. And yet we had excavators that were all over the place mining when they were not supposed to be doing galamsey. And some of them actually got lost after we had retrieved them. So it's interesting in this country. And Note asks me a number of questions, poses a number of questions that the way we like to talk in Ghana, what has changed about the atomic junction blast? What is the legal basis for the 5 or 6 million? This question has been asked over and again. Our investigations complete. We are not privy to the full details of the investigations. How was liability computed? We don't have an idea how all of this came about. And are those liable insured? Well, it does appear the government is being careful to leave those matters for those who may want to take further action. We'll take a quick break and we'll return to the Kotoka International Airport. We'll be right back.